Hey guys, welcome back to Nyx Reads. Thank you so much for watching, and please feel free to subscribe if you love bookish content like I do, if you love finding books to add to your TBR, and give this video a thumbs up if you like the format. I read 6 books in total in April, which is very good for me, but it was kind of meh. It was the first month, I think, in this year where I didn't have a 5-star read, so a new favorite of the year. I'm going to talk about the books from worst to best, and stay tuned until the end of the video to find out how much money I saved by using my library card. And don't forget to let me know if your April reading month went much better than mine did. The first book I read, or listened to in this case, was Spare from, what is his full title? Prince Harry? I'm not sure, I'm not gonna look it up right now. So this was a very, very long audiobook. I think it was like 16 hours long. To preface this review, I am not particularly fangirling over the royal family, and I'm usually not a fan of forming very extreme opinions about celebrities or royals, just people I don't know, because I mean, at this point we all know that the press does whatever they want, and I have not watched any of the lengthy interviews with Harry or Meghan or the documentary, which I know that is out on Netflix. But the reason why I still picked this up is because I thought it was quite special, you know, to read a memoir firsthand from someone from the family who, you know, was in a very special situation. And obviously there was a lot of hype around this, so I was curious. I think the big takeaway from this book is that the press is absolutely awful. If there's one clear villain in this memoir, it's definitely the press. I think everybody can agree on that who read this. What I absolutely did not expect is how he expressed his denial about his mother, so Princess Diana's death. So I didn't realize that he was completely in denial about his mom's passing when it happened and the years after that. Also, the memoir really lived off his love for the African countries. He mentions how he feels so at home, I think it was in Botswana mainly, and how he absolutely loved the nature, the animals, and the people that he met there, his experiences. I do have to say though, every time I listened to those parts, it came with a very weird aftertaste because colonialism, and he mentions that I think once in passing, but he never actually thematizes it. So I thought that was kind of a missed opportunity there to actually, you know, to take a firm stand, but maybe he doesn't see it like that, so I'm not sure. And then about those little quotes and snippets that you see in social media, I can tell you they were definitely blown out of proportion. Yes, it's true. Like, the writing style is not supreme. It's not essential. It's not the best, but it feels authentic enough to think that, yes, he actually sat there and wrote all of this on his own. I ended up giving this 3 stars because, as you can probably grasp from my review, I don't have any extreme feelings towards this book. It is actually quite forgettable for me, so I think if you're interested in all and what was snippets of what was happening in the royal family, then this could be interesting. Then I read The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. Our main character is Avery, who is in her teens. She does not have a very comfortable life. She at the moment sleeps in her car, and she doesn't really have parents to turn to. She lives with her half-sister who is having issues with her boyfriend, and it's just not a good situation all around. But she's a very smart young girl. She has big dreams. They are realistic dreams because essentially all she wants to be is, you know, secure. One day out of nowhere, this billionaire Hawthorne dies for some reason without having any connection. He makes her part of his will. I picked this up because I expected a super fast-paced, super fun read with, you know, the mystery parts and riddles, kind of like an escape room feel is what I was expecting. I think I misunderstood the premise a little. For some reason I thought that she would be competing with other people for the inheritance, so that it's like a Hunger Games situation, or maybe I just confused it because of the title. Hawthorne, he has 3 grandsons. She then meets these and starts solving clues with or against these boys. There was definitely some insta love, some insta affection, I should say here, but I mean, who's surprised? It's YA. What I was expecting more of was more riddle solving and complex clues. I was expecting very intricate details that maybe don't make sense at first and then everything comes together in the end. I honestly just expected this the story to be a bit more clever. At the end of the day, there was a lot of talk about Avery's feelings towards the brothers and about her own situation, a lot of like soul searching within her that I didn't expect. I thought it's gonna be more adventure and one riddle after the other. But that being said, I thought that the book ended in a good cliffhanger, if you will, and I'm very much interested to see what happens next. So I will pick up the next book. Then I read The Lost Village by Camilla Sten. I didn't realize that this was actually a translated fiction work, so the author is actually from Sweden. This was so bingeable. As the title suggests, in the 60s, somewhere in rural Sweden, around 800 people in this small village from one day to another just vanished. Everybody was gone. It's kind of, I guess, like a, what is that called? Like Ragnarok? Roanoke situation. No clue what happened to the people. The only person that was found there was actually a woman who was stoned to death and her body was hung. That's what the police found, and everybody else was gone. Children, adults, everybody else. Oh, and a baby. A baby was found there. So the town is called Silvershire, and the actual plot of this book is years and years later, a film crew comes to that village because they want to not film a documentary, but they want to pre-film some shots to then get funding for a full documentary. So it's kind of like Blair Witch Project also. This was so page-turnery. I mean, I listened to it, but I finished this within a few days, and I think this would make a fantastic series with, I don't know, like 8 to 10 episodes or so. I ended up giving this 3.5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved the premise. I thought the format with, you know, a film crew going in and trying to understand what happened was very intriguing. In the end, though, I thought that the interpersonal drama took too much space within this type of story. I did like the twists and the resolution, if you will, but it came way too fast. I completely understood what the author did there, but in my mind, everything happened way too fast, and it felt like I was skipping over 5 or so chapters that explain how this all happened. So in conclusion, I liked this very much. I enjoyed it, but I really wanted more, and I think the execution of the idea lacked a bit of finesse in the end, and it made it not so believable. Then I read 3 Wishes by Liane Moriarty. This was her debut novel, and I will read anything by Liane Moriarty at this point. I still have, I think, 2 or 3 books from her backlog to read. No one writes family drama like Liane Moriarty. She is just the best. There's not a lot of happening usually in all of her books, and they're pretty long, but it's almost like listening to reading the most delicious gossip you can imagine. The book is called 3 Wishes because we have triplets as our main characters. They're Gemma, Lynn, and Kat. They're adult women. They all are in different phases of their lives. We look at the drama that is unfolding within their personal lives and how it is all connected. A lot of entertaining drama. There were definitely some moments where, you know, I really felt the story dragging a bit because it is a pretty long book for what it is. In the end, I just ate everything up. The moments where the characters were in despair, they were sad, and, you know, the really bad things were happening, I definitely felt my chest tighten a bit for them. The other thing is, though, I think this was written in the early 2000s. I will say that some of the dialogue parts did not stand the test of time in terms of, like, sexism. If I remember correctly, she doesn't really write like this in her newer book, so I like to think that the author learned. So yeah, it is a 3.5, but I enjoyed it so much, and I cannot wait to pick up another book by this author. And I read Split Tooth by Tanya Tagaq. This author is an Inuit throat singer. She actually does throat singing bits before each chapter, and I obviously would have missed out if I just picked up the physical copy. Man, this book is something. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. First and foremost, it takes place in Nunavut in Canada. One of the aspects that she describes a lot is the cold. It really went under my skin. Anything that comes with it, like the bodily effects it has on you. Our main character in the story is a native girl who grows up in Nunavut in the 1970s and everything that comes with it. Yes, family and school life for sure, but then also sexual assault that's happening to her, drug abuse. But one of the biggest themes is her oneness with nature. A lot of the times this book feels like a stream of consciousness. Like word vomit almost, but in the best poetic way possible. It is so raw. It feels almost like a nonfiction memoir. Her story has a lot of tragic aspects, a lot of traumatic aspects, so please look up the trigger warning before you read this, but it is honestly a work of art. And this is not a spoiler, it is in the summary. At some point this girl becomes pregnant, and in my mind, how she interprets this pregnancy and what happens after, I personally saw everything that was written in the book as a metaphor or as her own interpretation to process trauma. Other readers took this very literal, and I think that is where the opinions might really differ, and it really depends on you, the reader, to interpret this the way you read it for yourself. This was a lot to take in. It was really something, really good. And lastly, also with 4 stars, I finally finished the second Lord of the Rings. Oh my god. I pulled this book out of my TBR jar. So this is part of my TBR jar challenge, but also part of my classics challenge because I count this as one of the classics that I own and want to read. And I read the German translation, which counts towards my goal to reading more German books. I mean, what do I even have to say about this? I don't think I need to summarize what happens in this book. What's interesting is, I think in modern fantasy, when you have different storylines, you change the point of views with either every chapter or every few chapters. In this case, we only follow Aragorn, Legolas, and other characters in, I think, the first half of the book, and then the second half of the book exclusively we're looking at what is happening to Sam and Frodo. So it's not interchanged, it's literally like, you know, cut down the middle. The second part was definitely much faster than the first to me. I mean, the world building is just completely insane. Not only does this author give you a full understanding of the geography of a world that does not exist, the geography, the people who live there, the different creatures that roam that world, things that you find in nature, but also history. I will say that the reason I gave this 4 stars is because it was sometimes so overwhelming in history and details. Because of this richness, the pace is quite slow at times. I finally did it, and it's now time for me to rewatch the second movie. I now realize what, you know, the differences are, which is pretty cool. All right, so those were all the 6 books, and I only owned 1 of them. The 5 other ones I got from my library, and the amount that I saved by using my library card instead of buying those books before tax is $144.96. That's a lot. And get this, the audiobook Spare, if I had bought it, I'm not kidding you, I looked it up on Indigo, which is chapters, it's $66. Why is it so expensive? Who pays that much money to listen to this audiobook? I don't understand. I'm not gonna pull out a new title from my TBR jar this time because I'm pre-filming this and I just did so a few days ago. So I'll do that in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think about these books. Have you read any of them? I mean, for sure, maybe Lord of the Rings. Did you fall into the hype of reading Spare? Don't forget to subscribe if you love book content, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.